In this video, we're going to see how Magnus Carlsen played a wonderful game against Wesley So. At the end, we're going to see a beautiful geometric pattern in which Carlsen won through a series of force checks. So stick around until the end and we're going to see this amazing pattern play out. In his position, Carlsen has just traded queens, but we are going to take it from the top. This is their first game in the final. d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3, c5. In this position, we can see black has 3 pawns in the center, white has 2, and what we're about to see is a series of exchanges. Carlsen takes, but Wesley So takes the other way. Carlsen recaptures with the queen, and Wesley takes back towards the center. So already, both sides started with 3 pawns in the center. The C, D and E pawns I would call, they're the center pawns. But Carlsen now plays E4, offering another pawn trade. Let me know in the comments below. Can you think of another opening where the C, D and E pawns get traded so early on as move 7? Because I don't know another opening. Take, and this is the point, the queens come off, and now knight g5. White plans to get a pawn back later. Knight g5 is a double attack. You're attacking the pawn on e4 and the pawn on f7. But Wesley has to protect this pawn, bishop e6. Instead of getting a pawn back, white chooses to ruin the black structure. So he takes the bishop, take, and now bishop c4. Wesley now plays a very necessary but very ugly looking move, king e7, because it looks like it blocks this bishop, but this bishop is going to come out another way. I just want to speak about this position psychologically. It's move 11, and what Wesley has done so far is interesting. He's managed to trade queens as early as move 7, and he's managed to trade the C, D and E pawns, and he's managed to trade a pair of minor pieces. This can be a good strategy when you're playing a top player. You try and trade pieces off, then you're getting closer and closer to equality. In my opinion, I could never play like this as black, because I want to fight, I want to attack. I'm looking to win with the black pieces, but it's not every day that you play the world champion Magnus Carlsen, so you have to adopt. You have to use a different strategy. Castle, knight d7, bishop out, rook c8, bishop back to c3, and knight c5. And here we see another set of trades, take, take. Well, the king on e7 is not really blocking in this bishop, because this bishop can come out another way. Rook e1. So eventually we could see Carlsen getting back his pawn. g6. Knight takes e4, take, take, e5. Now we have this endgame. A double rook, bishop, and 5-pawn endgame. Let's see what happens. f4, bishop g7, rook e1, putting pressure on this file. Take, rook f5, e6. This forces Carlsen to push the pawn. Looks like he's making a lot of progress. Well, this is an opposite bishop endgame, notoriously known for being drawn. Bishop takes b2, rook d1. Wesley played rook c7, a passive rook move, but maybe he should have gone rook c1. White's rook is better than black's, so it's good to look for a trade. Now, maybe he didn't play this because of rook e1, but there's a really cool move here. And it's not trading rooks, it's using this pin on the back. Black can actually bring this bishop back to give a check. Bishop d4 check. Cool move. The king has to go in the corner. You can't play take, because you take your rook, and it's actually checkmate. King in the corner, take, take, and it looks very dangerous because if you move the bishop, then you can go check, and then maybe you can give your king some room. It looks like white is making progress, but brilliant move here, rook f8. Coming back to defend. So then black has control of the D line. Once again, after rook here, you can't take the bishop because there is a back rank checkmate. So after this, you may give yourself space and then rook d8. This may be a draw. I'm really glad Wesley didn't play this. Now we get a double rook endgame. Very exciting. Rook c7, g4, getting space. King comes forward, rook back, rook attacks, and now rook on the d file, coming into d7, supported with the pawn. On e6, a5. So Wesley gets space, rook d7 check, a pair of rooks come off, take. Now you take with the rook. You don't want to take with a pawn, because even though this pawn is further advanced, black has a couple of ways to stop it. Put the rook there, or put the bishop there. So rook d7 check is better. King f6, rook b7. Carlsen goes after this one. a4, g5 check. A really cool deflection idea, because when Wesley takes, now you can take that pawn with check. So g5 check is such a good move. Wesley now blocks with the rook, but there was a way to continue with king f6. Bishop takes a4, bishop d6. And let's say bishop b3. But this looks so dangerous. You've got 2 pawns. And only white is playing for a win. So after rook takes b5 check, rook f5, highlight of the video. This is probably the most beautiful rook, queen, pawn endgame I've ever seen. All these moves look forcing, and it leads to a beautiful triangular geometric idea at the end. Check it out. Rook takes b4, a takes b3. And here Wesley probably thought he could outcalculate Carlsen, but not today. e7, you push your pawn. You don't take your pawn back, because rook e5 and this pawn is going nowhere. You get your pawn back, and then it'll be 2 versus 1. This pawn is going to fall, and it will be a draw. Now, this may be the move black missed. Rook e5. Looks like it stops it. But now's your chance to pause the video to have a go, or let the video run. Can you find a brilliant move, taking advantage of the fact that the rook and king are on the same file, the 5th rank? You can't queen, because you just lose it. There's no point playing rook b7, because black will have an asset. So it is using the king and a rook on the same file, and you play this brilliant move, rook b5, which looks like it just chucks a rook, temporarily. If you take, you get a queen. And now black is not in time to get his queen. If you take, this is check. And that's the difference. The king moves, and then plenty of time to stop the enemy pawn. Absolutely amazing. The best move might be king out the way, but then you can take the rook. This rook now is supporting this, but really you're just a rook down. So if you take, you get a queen. Rook down, queen, and here, checkmate in 1 move. So let the video run, or you can have a go now. Where is mate in 1? I know you're up a rook, but still good to find these patterns. Mate in 1. Queen e7, nowhere to go. I just want to show you another really cool pattern. If it wasn't mate in 1, I want to show you this really cool idea. It's the fact that you're using the queen, attacking the queen via an X-ray. Now after this check, the king has to go back, and it's through a discover check. Just by moving the rook out of the way, you're going to win the queen. You can go rook here or rook here. Both look good. Rook f5 check. You take, and then the queen can come back, and you grab the queen. Beautiful geometry there. e7. Wesley takes on a2 because he wants to get a queen as well. Queen, queen. Let's start with queen e7 check. It is vital that is white's move. If it's black's move, then black would have played queen f1 and leading to mate. But queen e7 check. King h6, rook h4 check. And this is what I mentioned at the start of the video. How do you be a top player? You use geometry. Rook h4 check. This would be checkmate if you couldn't block with the rook. So Wesley has to do that. Now we throw in another check. The following moves are all forced, and they lead to a beautiful outcome. Queen f8 check. Queen has to block to g7. If you come out, then it will be checkmate in 1. Queen back to f4. Queen g7. Queen f4 check. This would be mate if there was no pawn on g6, so you push g5. And now, your chance to pause the video or let it run. How can white continue with another check? Not trading off rooks, you just lose all your power. So queen d6 check. This would be mate, but black can block. Now's your chance to pause again. Can you find another way to keep checking the king? Not this, because you lose an asset you go Queen F8 check. And this is what I was talking about. Gorgeous geometry. The triangular check structure. The tactics. The triangular checks of tactics. Whatever. Call it whatever you want. It's just gorgeous. Queen F8 check. Here we have it. Gorgeous geometry. I'm highlighting the squares the queen has gone to. E7 to F8, back to F4 to D6, and then back to F8. Amazing. Queen F8 check, you have to block. Queen G7, and now it is a good time to trade rooks, because the king cannot defend the queen and rook at the same time, finishing it off. Rook takes H5 check, game over. Take, queen down. The game is over. Carlsen wins with beautiful, gorgeous geometry. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel at the same time. Make sure you hit that bell, then YouTube will let you know when I release another video. Thanks a lot, and I will see you later.